Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and the monthly RSI. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So the RSI, or Relative Strength Index, is one way that you can attempt to better understand the Bitcoin market. All right. A lot of people follow the RSI on relatively low time periods. You'll see a lot of analysts look at it on the 4 hour, on the 1 hour. I've seen people look at it on even lower time frames than that. You can, of course, look at it on the daily, on the weekly, and so on and so forth. And we've even on this channel, we've looked at some patterns that we noticed on the daily RSI. And we're going to work our way up to that monthly RSI, which is what I really want to talk about. Okay. So if you remember, earlier this year, right? If you remember earlier this year, we talked a lot, in fact, about the daily RSI and in context to the summer lull, okay? Because we saw it putting in lower highs over here, and we said, look, guys, eventually we're going to break out of this, right? Eventually we're going to break out of this, and when we do, that will usually lead to our relief rally, right? We were waiting for a relief rally. Someone asked me at some point, was this the relief rally? And I said, no, guys, I mean, we got to at least start to move in some other direction rather than just putting in lower highs on the daily RSI. And of course, once we broke it, we kept getting rejected from it many times. Once we broke it, we got our bounce. And then fortunately for us, right, we held the line at the 20-week SMA. Okay, so we followed the daily RSI before. Now, you can also look at longer time frames. I should mention, by the way, that a lot of people, when they consider the RSI, they say, well, okay, if it's below 30, it's technically oversold, and if it's above 70, it's technically overbought. Okay, so for instance, back over here, you could say it was technically overbought because it was at like 77. You could also say that at this short-term move right here when it went to 42K and it came back down. And then we also put in higher or lower highs here as well. But the point is, right, the general point is to say is that above 70, technically overbought, below 30, technically oversold, right? So what if we switch to a more macro time frame? Because, I mean, again, these daily time frames, they don't really tell a whole lot other than what's going on in relatively short periods of time. Well, you can look at the 3-day. You can see that we're sort of, at around 50, right, at around 50. So pretty humdrum in the market. I mean, I don't think anyone cares about a 3-day RSI that's 50. 5-day, about the same. A weekly RSI, actually that's the 2-week. If we go to the 1-week, the RSI right now is around 56. And when I look at this chart, and I've mentioned this before, I do think that the current cycle, at the very least, is a stretched out version of 2013 and is going to take us well beyond 2021. But even then, there's no guarantee it's going to play out exactly like it. But you can sort of see the pattern here, right? I mean, you're sort of excluding this first peak because we ultimately had a market cycle peak later, and then this one kind of getting even longer, right? And then the idea is this one, getting even longer than that one. And so you really have it as something as simple as, like 1, 2, 3. Maybe it is easy as 1, 2, 3, right? So that is the weekly RSI. And on the weekly, we're currently at around 55. Note that back in December, and then early January, we got up to these higher RSI levels. All right, which did not correspond to the all-time high in price by any stretch of the imagination. But that's where this printed the highest RSI. So then let's go to the monthly. All right, we've worked our way up to the monthly. Let's go ahead and look at it. It tells an interesting story, right? It tells a really interesting story. And what's interesting and what we're going to focus on in this video is where were we historically when the monthly RSI was at the current value of approximately 67, all right? That's what we're going to do. So we're going to draw a line where we currently are and go across. There's only been a few times when we were at this level, right? I mean, we hit this level back in 2012. Okay, we got rejected off of right here, but let's just say when we start to move above it, November of 2016, we got rejected off it right here, and then October of 2020. So the reason I'm showing this is because there are a lot of people that are assuming that Bitcoin was supposed to put in a market cycle peak in 2021, specifically September. Then of course that was changed once that didn't pan out, and it's been kicked all the can's been kicked down the road to December now. And what I warned about back then is, look, everyone has these price predictions. They're all well, I'll just leave it at that. Everyone has these price predictions on when the market cycle peak is going to occur. But most people are going to be wrong, right? I mean, most people are not going to be right. I think people give themselves way too much credit on being able to predict the market. That's just simply not how markets work, generally speaking. You can't just pull something up and say with 100% confidence that the market's going to have a market cycle peak in a given month. So when I look at this chart, what do I notice? Well, we could note that historically speaking, local tops and market cycle tops tend to occur above 90. All right, so let's take a close look at that. All right, so the first local top in 2013, it was above 90. This one was above 90 as well. Again, this one was sort of it wasn't really a local top, but we did have a bit of a pullback there in the late summer. So at above 90, above 90, above 90. Now, what's interesting is in order to get to that 90 level, even in 2013, once we were already above the current level, it took several months. So look, I know there's a lot of people that think there's a market cycle peak that has to occur in December at like $200,000, $300,000, some of these insane price valuations of several $100,000 in a relatively short period of time. But I'm here to show you, like, look at this chart. The last time we were at this level was back in October of 2020 on the way up, right? On the way up. It was October of 2020. We didn't go up to the top here until March. So we're talking about all the way from October. So then October to November is 1 month, then December, January, February, March. You're talking about 5 months before we actually got there. And that was with October being at the same level that December is at now. Okay, so it still took many months for us to reach that level. If you go back to 2016, a lot of people are equating what's going on right now in the market to December of 2017. But what's interesting, in December of 2017, the monthly RSI was over 95. Okay, if anything, and I mean, hold on to your hats, make sure you're sitting down for this one, right? If anything, one might say that the current period is actually more similar to the end of 2016 than 2017. Now, I'm not ignorant, right? Well, maybe on some things, but I'm not ignorant when it comes to where these models are coming from, right? So I do understand that there are some similarities between December or between the end of 2017. Well, I understand that there's people that like to show all these similarities between, say, 2017 and 2021. But the truth is, 2017 started the year off at around $1,000, maybe even less than $1,000 or so. By December, we were already trading over 10K. And so you're talking about a 10x up. So far this year, Bitcoin started the year off at 28, 29K. We're not even at 58K right now. So we're basically a 2x up. There are so many differences between 2021 and 2017. The only real way I think that you find, extreme similarities between them are if you cherry pick certain locations in the chart. But if you take everything as a whole, say, look, there are a lot of differences in it. So I don't want to say that I'm ignorant on this, since I don't know where these things come from. I do understand where they come from. I just think if you take a look at the entire market as a whole, we're not in euphoria right now. I mean, I know some people say this is euphoria. I've seen that on Twitter and whatnot. But look, I mean, in terms of the monthly RSI, which you could argue is a pretty good gauge of where euphoria actually is, up here at these higher levels above 90 and as high as 95, 97. We're currently not even in overbought territory, right? We're not even at 70 yet. Now, we could make it to 70 this month, and we could go above 70 this month. It's not like it takes that long for it to shoot up. I mean, it can take a few months for us to get back up to the top there. But look, right now, at least based on the monthly RSI, you could argue this is more similar in terms of the conditions in the market to November of 2016. over November, December 2017. And I know that sounds weird, but if you think about it, I think it does actually make a decent amount of sense. Why is that? Well, if you go look at Bitcoin, and we go look at, say, I'm going to zoom in on this chart, so I'm not doing it on the other one, and I want to keep the other one clean. If you look at this chart, November of 2017, we saw a candle that went up 55%, which was, the rally that led us into December, right? I mean, this was a 55% move. But this year's November, we lost 7%. So clearly there's something going on that's different, right? They're not the same thing. Another thing to note is November of 2017, when Bitcoin went up 55%, I mean, we were in pure price discovery mode for many, many months before that. Right now, we're still testing the prior all-time high, right? I mean, like, we're still just trying to limp past this finish line. And I mean, obviously, we have gone past the all-time high a little bit, but not a lot, right? I mean, we went to 69K after hitting 64K over here. So to say that this cycle right here, where we're still fighting to get back above the prior all-time high, when we saw November put in negative 7%, when you compare it to 2017, it was a 55% move. You look at the monthly RSI, and you can note that this is more similar to November of 2016. It's more similar to October of 2020, not December of 2017, right? There's really very little similarities, I think, in that when you look at this metric. And then if you go back even further, you can find another example when we were at these levels. It was back in September, October of 2012. So let's just say October 2012. We then went on to put in a local top by April, right? Which is similar to what we saw in 2020, right? So like October to April, October to March. Okay, so I'm not saying we're going to have a market cycle peak in March. I'm not saying it's going to happen in April either. I'm saying everyone acts like every day is an emergency, and that if Bitcoin doesn't go up right now, it's like the end of the world, and like it has to make a decision. I think people need to relax, right? Not every day is an emergency, right? We don't have an emergency every single day in the crypto market. If anything, the market's relatively boring right now, and people should treat it as such. And at some point, I think we will, continue trending higher. But the idea that this is a make or break moment for Bitcoin just because it happens to be 4 years after the last market cycle peak, I think is a bit ridiculous, right? I mean, that's my opinion. So I wanted to show you guys this chart on the monthly RSI. And unfortunately, in order to have a monthly RSI, you don't really have a whole lot of data, but you can imagine it looks something like this, right? You have 1, 2, and then I'm hoping this ends up being a third, right? Easy as 1, 2, 3. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. We also do have the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. Make sure you guys check it out. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.